You're tuned in to Sinister Shadows, where forgotten broadcasts resurface, strange signals bleed through the static, and the stories don't always stay fiction. If you found this channel, it's not by accident. Something brought you here. So settle in, stay quiet, and listen closely. What you're about to hear might sound like a story, but some shadows speak the truth. They say he only shows up when the porch lights click on, like you summoned him by trying to feel safe. 1 second, just your yard. Wet leaves, the crooked scarecrow you zip-tied to the fence, a plastic skeleton with a missing arm. Next second, a shape where no shape should be. Tall, still, tilted head. The clown mask a flat white, mouth slit carved into a smile too long, too thin, a hollow grin. That's what we call him here, the hollow grin. If you're not from Harrow Creek, you've probably heard pieces of it. The escape from Ash Grove State Hospital 20 years ago, the patient who vanished on Halloween night during a power outage and was never found. Half the town swears the hollow grin is him still roaming on All Hallows. The rest insist he's not human at all, just something Halloween pulled out of our collective throat. A joke that never ends, a laugh that never starts. The first time I saw him, I'd just finished carving a pumpkin with my nephew. It was October 28th, cold enough for your breath to make ghost shapes. I took the trash out, flipped the porch light on, and there he was at the curb. Not walking, not creeping, just there, like he'd grown from the shadow of my mailbox. Clown mask, cracked along the right cheek. Black bib overalls, a thrifted polka dot shirt visible underneath. And in one gloved hand a bunch of dead mums tied with orange ribbon, petals black as if they'd been licked by fire. He held them out to me with a slow, unfunny flourish. "Buddy?" I called, because what else do you say to carnage-wearing carnival? "You lost?" He didn't move. That long, painted smile looked like a split in flesh. In the porch light, the eyes behind the mask were just two dark wells. I took one step down the stairs, and he did something so small it felt obscene. He squeezed the dead flowers. The sound was brittle, papery. He tilted his head farther like a dog hearing a whistle. Then, somewhere behind me, my nephew laughed. A light kid's laugh, a burst of sugar and cartoons. The hollow grin's head snapped toward the doorway. I don't remember deciding to move. I was just suddenly between the clown and the open house, arms out as if that would do anything. The clown's chest rose once, twice. Then he let the flowers fall. And he stepped backward into the dark, one toe after the other, until he melted into the hedge and became yard again. I locked every door. I kept the porch light on all night, even though everyone says that's how you call him. But that's the problem with the hollow grin. Every tip is a rumor. Every rumor ends with somebody missing. By morning, the police had my ring footage, which showed exactly what I saw, and somehow less. The pixels chewed his outline into a jittering smear. His mask was a smudge, his hands a blur. The officer, Kramer, the one who never stops chewing gum, put a palm on my shoulder and said, "It's Halloween week." "We always get jokers," I pointed out the bouquet of dead mums. He told me kids steal from the cemetery sometimes. He didn't meet my eyes when he said it. That night, the town Facebook page ignited. Sightings stacked up like wet leaves. Saw him by the McCrory's bird bath, 2 a.m. Peering through my kitchen window while I fed the cat. Mask looked cracked. He stood under my bedroom window and tapped the glass with something metal. Screenshots of grainy figures, long as shadows, faces whited out by flash. The name Hollow Grin multiplied, became a dare in the comments, a nervous joke between strangers. On the 30th, JJ from the auto shop decided to be a hero about it. He went live from the bed of his pickup with 3 buddies, baseball bats, a crowbar, a bottle of Evan Williams already half dead. "We're gonna find this clown and rip his smile right off," he yelled to 50 hearts and laughing emojis. His girlfriend handed him a headlamp and kissed him like a goodbye she didn't believe in. They rolled toward the old cemetery where people kept finding stripped mums and little piles of marbles, like offerings. We watched the live stream together at my kitchen table. Me, my sister, and my nephew, coloring a zombie worksheet he'd gotten from school. The feed juttered across headstones, the beam of the headlamp jump-cutting from angel wings to rusted fence. In the corner chat, locals typed, "Turn back. Call Kramer. Don't split up." The boys ignored all of it, laughing too loud. Then the camera dipped, the picture smeared sideways, and the audio filled with a sound I didn't recognize at first. It was the sound of something wet being dragged over stone. "JJ?" someone said. The headlamp flared, found shoe prints on a slab of old vault concrete, prints stamped in a dark syrup that glistened even in grayscale. The feed's bitrate crunched. A bat clattered. A shape flicked across the far edge of light and was gone. Then there was a close-up of the ground, jittering as if being carried, a breathless curse, and the screaming started. It wasn't movie screaming, not even. It was the sound you make when your body realizes too late that you brought skin to a knife fight. The camera spun, glimpsed a white oval with a cracked cheek, a smear of polka dots, something like a silver hook flashing up and down in strokes too fast to name. The last frame was a mouth that looked drawn on, the hollow grin, and a spray of black that filled the lens like night pouring in. The live stream ended. The comments remained, blooming in the stillness. J, answer. Call 911. Please. By the time we got to the cemetery, blue lights already pulsed through the trees. The cops pushed us back. I saw two of JJ's buddies on the hood of a cruiser, faces empty, hands shaking like rattles. One of them had a long line down his forearm where something sharp had kissed him and skated off. The paramedics pressed gauze to it. He kept saying, "It's not a person. It's not a person," each repetition smaller, as if the sentence was shrinking him. They found JJ an hour later behind the mausoleum, arranged like a Halloween party display. What was left of him anyway? The rumor mill would cough up details before dawn. That his head had been tilted at the same angle as the clown's, that marbles had been tucked into his eye sockets, that a bouquet of dead mums was tied to his wrist with orange ribbon. Some of that became official, some didn't. What I saw for sure, before they zipped the black bag, was the pumpkin. It sat on the mausoleum step, candle lit inside, grinning a grin that wasn't carved so much as torn. The teeth weren't seeds or cut triangles. The teeth were real, set into the meat of the pumpkin, pink gums pressed into orange flesh. JJ's teeth. His blood pooled at the base, black in the night, as if the pumpkin were drinking from him. The hollow grin was somewhere in the hedges, or beyond the fence, or in the breath of October itself. Every porch light around the cemetery flared on in a wave, one after another. Click, 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 as if the town had decided to call him all at once. The hedges shivered, then went very still. Halloween was tomorrow. Harrow Creek did what scared towns do. We made a plan that felt like armor. The mayor declared a voluntary curfew. The church opened its basement. Officer Kramer parked his cruiser where everyone could see the blue bar rolling like a tide of safety up and down Main. The Facebook moms organized a Porchlight Vigil. Leave the lights on all night so trick-or-treaters could still come tomorrow, so the town wouldn't feel bullied into the dark. They printed flyers with clip art pumpkins and a slogan, "Light beats fear." The old ones shook their heads. "Light calls him," they muttered. Been that way since Ash Grove. My sister moved a mattress into my living room. We blocked the front door with a bookshelf and wedged a chair under the back. My nephew slept in a sleeping bag between us. His hand flopped over his plastic zombie flashlight like he'd handcuffed himself to it. Every few minutes, the police scanner app on my phone crackled. A nervous metronome for a town holding its breath. Unit 3 to Crestview. Possible prowler. Masked copy. Advise resident to squelch. Another voice. Another address. It stacked up until addresses started to sound like eulogies. Places we'd lived. Places we'd dated. Places where we'd cut lawns and kissed and smoked our first stolen cigarettes. The whole map of Harrow Creek lit up in my head with dots of fear. Around 10, the church held a meeting. We went because doing nothing felt like bait. The basement smelled like wet hymnals and coffee that had been boiled 3 times. The pastor said God was with us and told a joke about clowns so flat it died on his tongue. People talked over him, a chorus of what have the police found and where are JJ's friends now, and is there even a person under that mask? Then Mrs. Calder spoke, and the room actually went quiet. She's one of those town fixtures you forget to count. Widow, bird feeder hobbyist, walks a dachshund named Pickles in a pink sweater no matter the weather. Her voice is the sound of gravel in a tin pail. Halloween of 2005, she said. My husband heard tapping at the glass around midnight. Thought it was a branch. Went to look. There was a clown head in the window, right up to it, breath fogging it like he was warming his hands. The mouth was wrong. The eyes were holes. I saw it too. We called the police. They found shoe prints in the irises of my mum's like some heavy thing had stood there. She swallowed. 2 days later, my Bernard was gone. He went to refill the seat in the morning and never made it back up the steps. Just never did. Someone asked why she never told the paper. Because you start being the lady with the clown story, she said, and then your friends stop calling you to lunch. Kramer arrived half an hour later to tell us to go home, lock up, and for the love of God, stop live streaming. His eyes looked like he'd slept on the floor of his car. When he passed me at the coffee urn, I asked him if JJG's arrangement was a one-off. His jaw worked on gum and nothing else. He didn't answer. We stepped into air that felt like a refrigerator breathing. The fog had an appetite. Every porch on our street glowed like a row of jack-o'-lanterns trying to grin away the dark. I kept one hand on my nephew's shoulder. As we reached our front walk, the motion light tripped, a lazy yellow bloom across the lawn, and something reached across the window from the inside and pulled the curtain shut. We froze. That was the kitchen. I hadn't drawn those curtains. I put the kid behind me and nudged my sister toward the fence. The key, she whispered. I have it, I lied, because my keys were in my right pocket and my right hand was shaking bad enough to sound like a pocket full of pennies. The curtain edged back open an inch. The light from the porch put a bar of brightness across the glass. In that sliver, something white leaned into view, sideways, like a head that didn't understand the idea of up and down. A crack along the cheek. A smile carved too long. There, then gone. Then there, closer. The hollow grin trying on my house like a thrifted coat. I clicked the deadbolt. The door gave. Whoever was inside hadn't locked it again when they pulled the curtain. Back, my sister said, voice a fluff of breath and panic. We call Kramer. A smell came out of the kitchen that drowned everything. Copper and rot. The iron penny reek of a butcher's apron. My nephew's little hand clamped my wrist hard enough to leave the color of his fingers in my skin. I stepped into the kitchen anyway. The motion light clicked, then clicked again, confused by the fog of steam leaking from somewhere. Water hissed on the stove. The clown wasn't there, but he'd been busy. On the table he'd arranged 3 plates. On the far one, a pile of mums tied with orange ribbon, their petals crinkled and black, thick with a wet sheen. On the near one, a neat pyramid of marbles, each with a little swirl of red inside like a vein. The middle plate held something that shouldn't have been on a plate, ever. A tongue laid out like a tired fish. Its tip pointed toward where I'd just stood in the doorway. Beside the plate sat a coffee mug with a pumpkin on it. Inside the mug, a tooth, floating upright like it had swum up to breathe. I shut the stove off because that's what you do when something is wrong in a kitchen. You make it safe. The burner was under a pot of water. Inside the water, wrapped in cheesecloth, were seeds from a pumpkin. They bobbed against the surface. The water tinted faint pink. On the fridge, held by a magnet shaped like a candy corn, he'd left a Polaroid. It was my front yard. The timestamp put it at 5 minutes ago. In the photo, you can see the 3 of us in a fogged oval of window, hunched and small. And you can see, to the left of the frame, the suggestion of a white oval, half hidden behind the plastic skeleton we zip-tied to the fence. We didn't go back outside. We called. Kramer rang. Voicemail rang again. The scanner app barked. Unit 2, disturbance at Fairview. Unit 7, Possible DOA at... Squelch. The town was aboard with nails poking up and everyone's feet were bare. We gathered in the hall with the lights off and the phone on speaker. The curtains in the living room opened an inch, then closed, like breathing. Something tapped the glass, but not the patient knuckle of a polite visitor. It was the metal note we'd heard in JJ's stream, a silver bird pecking. Tap, 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 tap. It made a rhythm like a word I couldn't translate. "I'm calling Mom," my sister said. "We're going to the church." "Church is no safer than here," I said, which felt true and pointless. "He's not hunting rooms. He's hunting attention." The tapping stopped. My nephew whispered, "He's smiling." "How do you know?" I whispered back. "I can feel it," he said, and his voice belonged to every kid who knows the shape of a nightmare by touch alone. We waited a full minute. 2. The house listened to us breathe. The fog pressed its face to the windows like a kid outside a candy shop. When the next sound came, it wasn't tapping. It was the wet slide of something heavy across the back step. I peeked through the slat of the curtain, just enough to catch the slice of yard the motion light could manage. The plastic skeleton grinned toward the fence. The scarecrow's hat twitched. Farther back, by the hedge, someone stood too straight, too still, head cocked, bouquet hanging from one hand, the other arm long at his side like something hinged wrong might be hiding in the sleeve. He lifted that long arm and showed me the thing he was holding, a polished meat hook, the curve of it reflecting the porch light in a sick crescent moon. He put his finger, gloved, dark, to the place where his lips would be. Shh. Then he stepped backward into the hedge, vanishing leaf by leaf until the yard was a painting again. My phone buzzed. "Unknown number." I answered. A deadline. Then a little hiss. And then soft and close enough I could smell the rot through the wire. Trick or treat. By Halloween morning, Harrow Creek looked like a town halfway swallowed by its own decorations. Plastic webs hung from mailboxes, fog machines wheezed on porches, and somewhere under all that fake horror, the real thing breathed, patient and unblinking. No one said it out loud, but everyone knew the hollow grin hadn't just come back. He'd started staying. Kramer's cruiser idled by the elementary school while parents pulled their kids out early, just in case. The mayor canceled the official trick-or-treat walk, but half the teenagers said screw it. They were going anyway. Fear was a dare in Harrow Creek now. I hadn't slept. The Polaroid from last night sat on my counter, that blurry white oval in the yard, like a fingerprint burned into film. My sister wanted to pack the car and drive to her friend's place 2 towns over, but I couldn't leave. Not when I saw the second Polaroid under the front mat that morning. Same spot, same house. But this time, I was standing in the window, holding the first picture, and behind me, a hand pressed flat to the glass. I didn't look back. I just tore the photo in half and flushed it down the toilet. It didn't help. The image was already in my head, framed perfectly between my thoughts. By noon, the air was too still. No wind, no birds, just that Halloween hum, the kind that fills the gaps between sound, like the world holding its breath. I went to check the backyard. The scarecrow was gone. Only the post remained, dark with something wet. My first thought was rain. My second was wrong. The smell told me so. The top of the post was slick and red, a smear that wasn't there before. I followed it across the grass, a trail of tiny rust-colored drops leading to the hedge. The air behind it was colder, heavier. I crouched, parting the leaves just enough to see through. Shoes. A pair of black work boots. Too clean. Toes, pointing outward. Above them, a leg. Denim stiff with drying blood. My stomach climbed into my throat. The scarecrow wasn't missing. It had been replaced. The boots shifted. I fell backward, hit the grass, scrambled away so fast I kicked over the jack-o'-lantern by the porch. Its candle sputtered out, and for a heartbeat, the world went dark. When the porch light buzzed back on, the boots were gone. That night, the town tried to fight back. Teenagers formed search parties. packs of 5 or 6 armed with bats and flashlights, marching down the streets shouting, "Come out, you freak!" They filmed everything for clout. Every flicker in the dark became clickbait. They called themselves the Porchlight Patrol. By midnight, one of those patrols didn't come back. 6 kids, all from the high school football team. The police found their truck on the edge of the woods near Miller's Pond, engine running, headlights aimed at the water. Inside were handprints, hundreds of them, tiny ones, big ones, smeared across the fogged glass from the inside. The seats were empty. I should have stayed inside. I told myself that. But when the motion light tripped again around 2 a.m., instinct dragged me to the window. There he was, standing halfway up my driveway, bouquet in hand, staring up at the house. The cracked mask gleamed like porcelain dipped in shadow. He lifted his head slow as a puppet waking. Something dangled from his other hand, swinging back and forth in the wind. I leaned closer. A varsity jacket, number 42, one of the missing football players. He raised it, almost proud, then tossed it aside like trash. I could see now that the flowers weren't flowers at all. They were fingers, 10 of them, tied with orange ribbon. I wanted to scream, but something inside me froze, solid. My sister appeared behind me, whispering, "Don't move." The hollow Grin took one step forward, then another. He didn't walk like a man. His knees never bent right, like he'd forgotten how bones worked. He reached the porch and pressed one gloved hand to the window. The glass fogged under his touch. I could smell metal and old candy. Then he leaned in, tapping the mask's teeth against the pane. Click, click, click. Each tap left a faint red smudge, like he'd painted his grin onto my house. My nephew whimpered. The clown turned his head sharply, listening. He dragged his tongue across the cracked part of his mask. Or maybe it wasn't his tongue. The sound was wet. Then, just like before, he stepped backward into the dark. The motion light flickered, sputtered, then died. We called Kramer again. He didn't answer. Morning came slow and sickly gray. The yard was empty, but under the porch steps, tucked between 2 boards, was a folded note. The paper was soft with moisture, the ink smeared by what looked like blood. It read, "I'm only smiling because you're next." Below the words was a perfect thumbprint, pressed in something black that flaked when I touched it. That night, every house on the block turned off their porch lights. No one wanted to call him anymore, but the dark was worse, because now, he didn't need the light to find us. Halloween night hit Harrow Creek like a fever dream. The air was too warm, too still, the kind of night where even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Porch lights flickered on and off across town, some people daring the hollow Grin to come, others praying he'd skip their house. The sky was orange and bruised purple, like the sunset had bled out over the horizon. The cops said there'd be extra patrols. But when I stepped outside around 8, the streets were empty, just the hum of power lines and the rattle of a loose trick-or-treat bucket tumbling down the road. I should have stayed inside. But the sound drew me out. It started faint from the direction of the old mill road. A rhythmic squeak followed by a dragging noise, like a shopping cart rolling over gravel. It got closer. The fog thickened around the curve in the road, orange from a broken streetlight that pulsed like a heartbeat. That's when I saw the cart. It came out of the mist, slow, wheels squealing, filled with what looked like pumpkins, cracked, bruised, dripping something dark. But when the wind shifted, the smell told me the truth. Those weren't pumpkins, they were heads. Some still had their Halloween masks on. One pirate, one werewolf, one football player. And pushing the cart was him, the hollow Grin. He was taller than I remembered. His mask hung crooked, revealing glimpses of skin underneath. Gray, veiny, stretched like something trying to remember how to be human. The left side of the mask was caked with blood that wasn't dry. He stopped under the flickering light, tilted his head at me, and gave a slow, exaggerated wave. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't do anything except stare as he reached into the cart and pulled something out. a handful of candy sticky with blood glinting under the light. He dropped it one piece at a time onto the pavement, like feeding breadcrumbs to a bird. Then he whispered. I swear to God I heard it, even from 20 yards away. Trick or treat. The words sounded like two voices speaking through one throat. One high, one low, echoing inside the mask. He threw something that hit my feet and rolled into the gutter. A jawbreaker. Except it wasn't candy. It was a human molar. When I looked back up, he was gone. By the time I made it home, my sister was at the window clutching the phone. They found another body, she said. Main Street. They think it's one of the search party boys. The news spread fast, the kind of fast that feels like infection. The kid had been nailed to the Welcome to Harrow Creek sign with railroad spikes, his chest cavity hollowed out and stuffed with orange string lights. His face was gone, literally gone, replaced with a paper plate painted with a clown smile. Someone said the lights in his chest spelled a word if you stood far enough back. S-M-I-L-E. By midnight, the power went out. Not just our block, the entire town. No hum, no porch lights, no radio chatter. Just darkness so complete it swallowed the stars. I lit a candle. The flame shook like it was scared too. My nephew clung to my leg, whispering, "Is he outside?" "I don't know, buddy." Then, thud. Something heavy hit the porch. A second later, thud. Another. I inched toward the door. The candlelight swayed across the room. Outside, I could make out shapes through the frosted glass. 3 of them. 1 tall, 2 shorter, all standing perfectly still. The first shape bent down and placed something against the door. I heard it scrape, wood on wood. Then they stepped back. I cracked the door open, every nerve screaming. There on the porch were 3 carved pumpkins. But they weren't pumpkins. They were heads. JJ's friends. The other 2 from the live stream. Their faces had been skinned smooth and hollowed, candles burning inside their skulls, mouths slid into smiles too wide to be real. The middle one had a note pinned to its neck with a rusty nail. Smile for the camera. Behind me, my sister gasped. Then we heard it. A faint click from the back of the house. Someone was inside. The living room curtain fluttered. I saw movement in the reflection on the glass. A pale face half covered by the clown mask, watching from the kitchen doorway. His breath fogged the air. He was already in the house. I grabbed my nephew, shoved him behind the couch, motioned for my sister to run. But she froze. Her eyes were locked on the hallway mirror. The reflection showed something impossible. Behind the hollow grin, a second figure, taller, sharper. Its grin wasn't carved, it was growing, stretching wider until the skin split at the corners. Its hands reached out from the reflection, pressing against the glass like the mirror was water. And then, it stepped through. The lights flickered back on just long enough to show the walls painted in streaks of red. Not ours. Not yet. The candle blew out. The grin remained. By dawn, the sheriff's office cordoned off our street. Kramer's cruiser was found in the ditch near our fence, the driver's door wide open, radio hissing. No sign of Kramer. Just a single glove on the ground, fingers curled like it was still trying to hold on to something. And beside it, carved into the mud with something sharp. Trick. By the time the sun came up on November 1st, Harrow Creek wasn't a town anymore. It was an open grave that hadn't realized it was dead. The fog didn't lift that morning. It just sat there, thick and milky, swallowing sound. The only thing that moved was the police tape, flapping by the fence, and the ravens picking at the grass near the ditch where Kramer's glove still lay. They called it the Harrow Creek Halloween Massacre on the news. The reporters came from Wichita and Kansas City, parking their vans in front of the diner, asking questions that nobody answered. Most of us just stared at them like they were talking through glass. The faces they showed on TV, JJ, the search party kids, the boy from the welcome sign, were just names to them. To us, they were the screams we still heard in the quiet. Kramer's body was never found. But what they did find was his dashcam footage. It was short, maybe 30 seconds long. You can hear the engine idling, his breathing, steady but quick, and then a faint laugh. A clown's laugh, muffled and wrong, like someone choking on helium. Then a voice, close enough to fog the mic. "Smile for me, officer." After that, the video ends in static and blood spray. I didn't sleep that night. I don't think anyone in town did. My sister and nephew were taken to stay with relatives 2 counties away. I stayed behind because someone had to. Someone had to keep watch, and someone had to see how far this went. I sat by the window with a baseball bat, the last candle burning down to its wick. The fog pressed against the glass like it wanted in. The house smelled of iron, wet wood, and old nightmares. Then, movement. At first, I thought it was the reflection. But no, something in the fog moved. A tall silhouette gliding across the yard. The hollow Grin, still holding his bloody bouquet, the orange ribbon limp in the dew. The mask glowed faintly from the inside, like a jack-o'-lantern lit from the skull out. He stopped by the scarecrow post, the one that used to hold our Halloween decoration. Slowly, deliberately, he reached up and nailed something to it. 1, 2, 3. Each hit echoing through the yard like hammer strokes in a coffin. Then he stepped back and looked toward the window. I could feel his stare through the glass. I waited until he vanished before stepping outside. The fog was ice on my lungs. Each step toward the post felt like walking into a graveyard prayer. When I got close enough, I saw what he'd nailed there. A face. Not just any face. Kramer's. It was stretched across the post, nailed at the corners of the mouth, carved into a permanent grin. His badge hung from one nostril, blood still dripping from it. Beneath the grin, words written in crimson across the post. "The show must go on." I fell to my knees. I don't remember dropping the bat, but I remember the sound it made hitting the ground, like a gunshot swallowed by fog. Then I heard the laugh again. Behind me this time. Slow. Gurgling. Closer, I turned, and he was standing by the porch. The hollow Grin. Mask split wider now, plastic peeling at the edges, revealing something beneath that wasn't skin. It looked like wet wax molded into the shape of a man, with veins drawn on in red crayon. His eyes were holes. Black. Endless. He lifted a hand, dripping, and waved. That's when I noticed he wasn't holding the bouquet anymore. He was holding the candle from my house. The same one that burned out an hour ago, and it was still lit. He lifted it slowly, tilted his head, and whispered through that cracked mask, "Your turn." I ran inside and locked everything that had a lock. The lights flickered. The phone screamed with static. The TV turned itself on. No picture, just audio. A man's voice reading something over and over again. It took me a second to realize what it was. The Ash Grove patient file. Subject 241. Male, 6 feet 3 inches. Escaped during 2005 Halloween power failure. Believed deceased after fire in Ward C. Delusional episodes include fixation on smiling, laughter, and faces. Believes he is performing for an unseen audience. Identifies himself as the Hollow Grin. The voice laughed. Not the actor. The thing. It came through the TV, through the static, through the walls. "Did you like the show?" it asked. I made them all smile. Something banged upstairs. Once. Twice. Then footsteps. Not running. Dancing. A slow shuffle, heel to toe, heel to toe. The sound of clown shoes on old wood. I grabbed the bat and made my way to the stairs. Each creak sounded like it would snap in half. Halfway up, I saw a flicker of orange light. Candlelight. And a shadow, his, stretched across the wall, too long to belong to anything living. When I reached the landing, the air felt hot. The smell of blood was sweet, almost floral. There at the end of the hall stood the Hollow Grin, mask tilted, candle in hand, smiling like he'd been waiting for applause. Behind him on the wall in something dark and dripping were words scrawled by hand. "Every face deserves a smile." He started walking toward me, dragging something metal. The bat slipped from my fingers. The candle flickered. For one moment, I thought I saw the skin beneath the mask. Not burned, not scarred, just wrong. Like wax melting over a furnace. He stopped 3 feet from me, raised his head and whispered, "Smile." Then the lights went out. They found my house empty 2 days later. Blood everywhere, but no body. The neighbors swore they saw me standing in the window that night, staring out, with a painted grin. The official report calls me missing. The town of Harrow Creek emptied out within the week. No one stays there anymore. But every Halloween, someone still leaves a candle burning on my porch. And when the wind hits just right, the fog parts, and a tall figure in a cracked clown mask can be seen pushing a shopping cart down the street, humming softly, every wheel squeaking in rhythm to the sound of a distant laugh. They say the hollow grin never left, and if you ever drive through Harrow Creek on Halloween night, keep your lights off, because when the porch lights come on, he smiles back. 15 years later, Harrow Creek sits like a wound that never closed. The town's still technically on the map, population sign rusted and riddled with bullet holes, the welcome part barely legible. No one lives there anymore. Not officially. The houses are hollow, windows boarded, mailboxes leaning like tombstones. But every Halloween, someone lights a candle. That's what brought us there. We weren't cops or ghost hunters, just a small film crew chasing urban legends for our low-budget series Paranormal Midwest. I was the host, Brandon Lake, ex-reporter turned content scavenger. I'd seen my share of abandoned places, but Harrow Creek was different. It felt too aware. The locals in the next county over warned us before we left. "Don't stay after dark," one man said. "Don't turn on your porch light," said another. And a woman at the diner just whispered, "He's still smiling." We thought it was all hype, perfect for camera. We arrived October 30th, fog rolling off the fields thick as soup. The air stank faintly of rain and rust. We parked by the old diner, its windows spray-painted with "Keep Out" in dripping red. The crew unpacked, 2 cameras, a drone, and a generator. My cameraman, Dylan, was already setting up B-roll shots of the cracked streets. Every empty window looked like an eye socket. "Creepy as hell," he said, zooming in on a sagging scarecrow half buried in weeds. "You sure this place is empty?" "It's been empty for years," I said. "Only thing here now is legend." We laughed, but it sounded forced. Our plan was simple. Film overnight, capture a few spooky moments, and leave by dawn. I'd narrate the story of the hollow Grin, the escaped asylum patient who supposedly haunted the town every Halloween. We'd add creepy music in post, release it online, rake in a few million views. We started at the cemetery. The fog hung low over the tombstones, and one headstone, cracked down the middle, had something carved into it that wasn't part of the original engraving. Smile. The letters were jagged, uneven, cut deep like someone had done it with a nail. "Hey, Brandon," Dylan called. "You see this?" Near the fence line, something white fluttered in the wind. A mask, cracked, half buried in dirt. The hollow Grin's face, or someone's idea of it. "Perfect prop shot," I said, picking it up. But the inside was sticky. The straps were soaked in something that wasn't rain. I dropped it quick. That night, we set up camp in the only house with an intact roof. A pale blue, 2-story, that used to belong to the Wexler family. The power grid was long dead, so we ran the generator for lights and charged the cameras. The hum filled the silence like a heartbeat we didn't own. Around 11:30, we heard the first laugh. It came from somewhere outside, soft, broken, like a record skipping. We froze, waiting for it to stop. When it didn't, Dylan grabbed his camera and went to the window. "Nobody out there," he said. The laugh echoed again, closer now, followed by the faint creak of a shopping cart wheel. Squeak, drag, squeak, Drag. Holy shit, he whispered, hitting record. Through the fog, a figure was moving down the street. Tall, slow, head tilted. The porch lights from the nearby houses flickered one by one as it passed. In each brief flash of light, you could see the mask, the hollow smile splitting the night open like a wound. "Keep filming," I said, even as my gut screamed, "Don't." The figure stopped in front of our house, and then it waved. Dylan's camera feed glitched, static tearing through the picture. When it cleared, the clown was gone, but something was left on the porch. We opened the door, a single candle burning low, placed in the center of a paper plate painted with a smile. Beneath it lay a note written in smeared red ink. "Welcome home, Brandon." Dylan's voice cracked. "How the hell would he know your name?" I didn't answer. I just stared at the plate, because the handwriting looked familiar. The same looping scrawl from an old missing person poster I'd once seen online. The poster for me. The Brandon Lake who disappeared in Harrow Creek 15 years ago. We packed our gear fast. The fog swallowed the road. GPS glitched, spinning the same location pin no matter which way we drove. The gas gauge flickered even though the tank was full. "Left," I said. "There's the sign." But as the beams cut through the fog, the Welcome to Harrow Creek sign came into view, with something nailed to it. A mask, fresh blood dripping from the mouth, and words scrawled across the bottom in something dark and wet. "Smile again." The candle in the back seat flickered on by itself. The generator in the truck bed started humming, though no one touched it. And through the static on the radio, a voice whispered. My voice. Reading from the end of my own final broadcast. If you're hearing this, it's already too late. He's not just in Harrow Creek anymore. He's in the light, and he's smiling for you. The laughter came next. Close, wet, human, and not. Something pressed against the back window. A pale, cracked mask. And as the glass began to fog, 2 words appeared from the inside out. Thank you. The video we filmed that night uploaded itself 3 weeks later. No one admits to posting it. No one survived to explain it. But every Halloween since, it goes live again. Same channel, same timestamp. And at the end, after the footage cuts to black, the last frame lingers just long enough for viewers to see a reflection in the screen. A tall man in a cracked clown mask, standing behind whoever's watching. They say once you see the hollow grin smile, you start to smile back. The night Paranormal Midwest went live, it hit the internet like an infection. The thumbnail alone, grainy shot of a fog-soaked street, a clown silhouette backlit by firelight, hooked millions. Within hours, #Harrow Creek Challenge was trending. Reaction channels dissected every frame, freeze framing on that cracked mask, the way it seemed to move between cuts. People joked at first. ARG marketing, they said. Deep fake, indie horror genius. But then the comments started. User 493. Is anyone else hearing laughing through their speakers? Spooky gal. I paused at 13:07 and someone smiled. Back at me. Dead man live. I saw my porch light flicker. Thought it was the video. It wasn't by dawn. Moderators were deleting entire threads for psychological distress. Viewers reported seeing their reflection smiling independently. One streamer fainted mid-reaction. His feed kept rolling. For 8 minutes his body sat perfectly still, then his mouth split into a grin that didn't match human anatomy. The screen glitched, and when it returned, he was gone. A week later, the FBI flagged the upload. They said the file size changed daily, growing a few kilobytes at a time, as if the footage were evolving. Every time they tried to delete it, a backup appeared somewhere new. TikTok, Reddit, even dark web mirrors under names like the hologrin.wmv. No one could trace the source. The metadata listed the original poster as Smile Again. The location tag, Harrow Creek, Kansas, updated to the current date every single night. Then came the viewer deaths. The first was a tech blogger from Ohio who claimed he decoded a hidden message in the audio waveform. He live-streamed himself explaining it, A string of coordinates, Morse-coded into the static. Midstream, the lights behind him flickered. He laughed, once, twice, then turned the camera toward the window. Viewers saw a face there. White mask. Black pits where eyes should have been. The stream cut out with a single metallic click. Police found him the next morning, jaw unhinged, cheeks carved upward into a smile so wide it nearly reached his ears. A paper plate lay on his chest, painted with a grin. In marker, someone had written, "Trick complete." From there, it spread like a plague of mirrors. A gaming channel in Sweden, a podcast in Florida, even a reaction video from Tokyo. Every one of them ended the same way. Static, laughter, vanishing host. Internet urban legend forums dubbed it the Smile Virus. Conspiracy nuts claimed it was an experimental MK Ultra signal buried in the original footage. Psychologists called it mass hysteria. But the survivors, the ones who'd clicked and somehow lived, told another story. They said after watching, you start to see him. First as a reflection, then behind streetlights, then inside dreams where your teeth ache from grinning too long. I know because I watched it too. I wasn't supposed to, but curiosity kills more than cats. I found an archived mirror, hit play, and within seconds my speakers hissed that familiar breathy laugh. The image jittered, then stabilized into the fog-soaked street. There he was, the hollow grin. He turned toward the camera like he'd been waiting for me. And then, he spoke. "You finally came back, Brandon." My screen froze. My reflection smiled. Now, nights don't stay quiet. The power in my house flickers around 3 a.m. The radio whispers names of the dead. And sometimes when I catch myself grinning at nothing, I feel another mouth moving under my skin. The upload's still out there. No one knows where. But if your porch light flickers tonight, don't check the window, because the hollow grin isn't haunting Harrow Creek anymore. He's haunting the screen, and he's smiling for you. The Department of Cyber Defense issued the blackout at 4 a.m. sharp. One by one, the servers carrying the hollow grin file winked out, whole nodes of the internet dropping like lights in a haunted house. The official statement called it a malware containment exercise. Off the record, agents called it Operation Laughing Man. I know because I was in the briefing room. After the Harrow Creek tape went viral, I wasn't a journalist anymore. I was evidence. They flew me to DC, stuck me in a decontamination unit for a week, ran EEGs until my brain looked like static. I told them the same thing over and over. It's not a file. It's a presence they wrote delusional recall in the margin and kept recording. Then the server started to laugh. Every storage node they quarantined played a faint chuckle through its cooling fans, a rhythm that matched a human laugh slowed to half speed. When engineers pulled the drives, they found their firmware overwritten with a single line of text looping endlessly. Every face deserves a smile. By Halloween, the blackout had spread to half the Midwest. Power grids surged. Cell towers broadcast bursts of distorted carnival music on emergency frequencies. People who never saw the video began reporting hallucinations. Streetlights flickering in sequence, reflections waving out of sync, phantom laughter in baby monitors. The CDC classified it as a memetic contagion. The Pentagon classified it as Entity H241, same code once used for the Ash Grove patient files. They sent a strike team into the ruins of Harrow Creek to trace the source signal. I begged them not to. The body cams from that mission were never meant to leak, but one did. Timestamp, 22:13 hours, October 31st. Fog density, 98%. Audio, unstable. Operator 1, visual on structure ahead. Candlelight in upper window. Operator 2, copy. Moving in. Door creaks. Wet sound. Operator 3, Jesus Christ, are those faces? Operator 1, negative confirmation. Proceeding. Laughter close range. Operator 2, we've got movement. 10 o'clock. Masked. Gunfire. Screams. Static. When the feed cleared, the hallway walls were covered in paper plates painted with smiles. Each one dripped something red that pulsed like living tissue. The last surviving camera caught the figure stepping out of the fog, taller than any man, mask fused to his skull, eyes like burnt holes. He lifted his head toward the lens. "You came to watch," he said. "So smile." Then, the transmission cut. The next morning, every agent's biometric chip pinged from a single location, the control room where the servers had been stored. Security footage showed them entering at dawn, blank-faced, lining up in front of the monitors. One by one, they carved smiles into their own cheeks and whispered in unison, "The show must go on." When backup arrived, the room was empty, except for a shopping cart filled with broken cameras and a single candle still burning. The president ordered Harrow Creek firebombed that night. Satellite images confirmed the blast radius, but 3 hours later, a new IP address appeared online, originating from within the crater. It uploaded a single 10-second clip. Fog, laughter, a flicker of a white mask. Caption, "Smile again." I live off-grid now. No phone, no lights, no mirrors. But sometimes, when the wind dies, I hear a faint squeak outside my cabin, the sound of a cartwheel on gravel, and through the trees a soft orange glow pulsing like a heartbeat. The broadcast isn't over. It never was, because the hollow Grin isn't a ghost, or a virus, or a man. He's the audience. And we're all part of the show. The Midwest went dark 3 weeks after the Harrow Creek blast. No phones, no satellites, no power east of the Rockies. The government called it a containment corridor. We called it what it was, the quarantine. The last survivors clustered in the ruins of a hospital outside Topeka. The building smelled of bleach, candle smoke, and fear. We'd torn out every reflective surface, boarded the windows, and painted "no lights after dusk" on the walls. When night fell, we talked in whispers and watched the horizon for the orange pulse that meant the Grin was near. There were 13 of us. Mara, the medic who stitched our faces when smiles cracked them open from stress. Silas, the signal tech who swore he could kill the broadcast. Me, the idiot who'd filmed the original documentary. Silas worked by lantern, hunched over scavenged laptops and radios, soldering circuits that hummed like trapped bees. He said the video carried a carrier tone that rewrote frequencies, that if he could invert it, we could end this. "We just have to find the original frame," he told me, eyes wild. The first smile. At 2 a.m., the fog rolled in again. It always found us, even inland. It moved like it knew our names. The generator coughed, the lights flickered, once, twice, and the hospital's PA system crackled alive. A voice whispered through the static, stretched thin and sweet. "Hello again, Brandon." Every speaker in the building laughed in perfect rhythm. We smashed them, but the sound didn't stop. It vibrated through the walls. The tile grout split into hairline cracks shaped like smiles. Silas ran power to the roof antenna, cables snaking down the stairwell. He pointed at me. "We need your camera. It's got the lens that caught him. If we reverse the aperture feed, maybe we can..." He never finished the sentence. The hallway lights came on all at once. Bright, blinding, impossible. And standing at the far end was a tall figure, head cocked, bouquet of blackened mums in hand. The mask was gone now. His face was the mask. White, smooth, grinning from ear to ear like clay stretched over flame. He raised one finger to his lips. "Shh!" Mara screamed. The light bulbs burst. We ran for the basement. Concrete, darkness, silence. Only the sound of our breathing and the faint squeal of a shopping cart rolling above us. Silas kept muttering math, trying to finish his inversion code. He's not light. He's resonance. He's using us to echo. The PA clicked back on. Down here too, even though there shouldn't have been power. Every smile deserves an audience. Then laughter. Hundreds of overlapping voices, like everyone who'd ever seen the video was laughing together through one mouth. The walls rippled. The sound became pressure. Blood dripped from our noses. Silas hit enter. The speakers screamed, high, inverted, painful. The tone bit into the dark like a knife. The fog outside the broken vents shuddered. For a moment, the laughter stopped. Then something laughed back. The lights came on one final time. In that flicker, I saw the others frozen mid-motion, heads tilted, mouths torn open in rictus. Their eyes glowed orange. Each one whispered the same two words. "Smile again." The monitors burned white. The carrier tone reversed itself, blooming outward in waves of static that looked almost alive. I ran. Out of the basement, through the fog, across the field of dead corn that whispered and giggled as I passed. When I looked back, the hospital windows were full of faces, my crew, Silas, Mara, all standing shoulder to shoulder, grinning down at me. Behind them, a tall figure pushed a cart piled high with cameras and candles. The building collapsed in on itself. The shockwave carried a sound like applause. I've made it 23 miles from Topeka. The radio in my truck won't turn off. The dial is stuck on one frequency. Laughter. Then a familiar voice. "Final act coming soon." I think the signal survived Silas's inversion. I think I carried it. When I open my mouth, I can hear it playing inside my teeth. Tiny vibrations, a song wanting to get out. If this recording reaches anyone outside the quarantine, don't try to save us. Destroy every screen. Kill every light. Because the hollow Grin isn't hunting people anymore. He's hunting viewers. And every time you hear laughter in the static, he's already smiling through you. They told us the signal was dead. They lied. 3 months after the Topeka collapse, the blackout lifted for one night. Satellites blinked online long enough to transmit a single emergency broadcast across every surviving network. No intro, no disclaimer. Just a white screen, a hum like breath through teeth, and a sentence that scrolled in black text. The show must go on. Then came the footage. Grainy at first, then sharp. Harrow Creek, glowing in infrared, the crater pulsing like a heartbeat. Shapes moved inside the fog, hundreds of them, shoulder to shoulder, heads tilted in identical angles. The hollow Grin stood at their center, mask fused to his skull, arms outstretched like a conductor. The feed zoomed closer until the pixels crawled. That's when the world began to laugh. Every speaker, every phone, every billboard screen. One by one they clicked on and joined the chorus. In cities, people froze mid-step, faces twitching, lips splitting wider. The laughter wasn't joy, it was pressure escaping the soul. Streets filled with grinning silhouettes under flickering lights. The quarantine failed before it started. I was in a shelter outside Denver when the broadcast hit. The generator lights popped and the radio in the corner whispered, "Smile for the finale." We smashed the screens, tore out the wiring, but it was already inside us. The air vibrated with that same low tone. Some fell to the floor clutching their heads. Others began humming, eyes blank, mouths widening until skin tore. I ran. Again. Always running. The roads out of Colorado were graveyards of headlights. The laughter followed, low and wet, echoing from inside the cars. In one truck cab I passed, a whole family sat upright, faces lit by the dashboard glow. All of them grinning, all of them whispering, "Smile again." The clouds overhead flashed orange, shaped like eyes. For a second I saw the hollow Grin's face stretched across the sky, that impossible painted mouth swallowing the horizon. He wasn't one man anymore. He was every screen. I made it to the radio tower on Pike Hill because old tech still works when new tech dies. Analog, not digital. I climbed 12 stories through the fog, carrying the last unbroken recorder Silas left behind. My plan was simple. Transmit a kill tone. Wipe the airwaves clean. At the top, the wind tasted like iron. The city below flickered in patches. Whole blocks pulsing between light and dark, like a heartbeat trying to restart. I patched into the tower line and pressed record. "Don't listen to the laughter," I said into the mic. "He's using it to find you. If you can hear this, destroy your screens, destroy your lights." The hollow Grin feeds on. Static. Something moved behind me. A squeak. A drag. The sound of a single shopping cart wheel rolling across metal grating. I turned. He was there. The mask was gone completely now. His face was smooth, featureless except for that smile, a canyon carved across white flesh leaking light. Inside the Grin, faces moved, mine, Silas's, Mara's, all screaming silently. He raised a hand, fingers dripping black. In the other, a burning candle. "You kept them watching," he said. "You gave me an audience." The candlelight swelled, flooding the tower with orange glow. The recorder in my hand melted. My reflection smiled in its surface before it liquefied. The last thing I heard was applause. Weeks later, the world's feeds returned. A single looping video plays on every channel. A quiet street in Harrow Creek, fog rolling, a lone candle flickering on a porch. Then a voice, soft, familiar. "Thank you for watching." The camera pans slowly until it catches a figure behind the lens. A man in a torn jacket, his face painted white, his grin too wide. Me. The screen cuts to black. And then, the laughter starts again. They say the hollow Grin isn't a curse anymore. He's entertainment. He's content that never ends. And every Halloween, when the porch lights click on, the broadcast resumes, welcoming new viewers with the same invitation that started it all. Smile again.